Weller Special Reserve. Is the first wheated bourbon worth tracking down? Stick around to find out. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of With or Without Whiskey, the show where I give you the history and review of all things whiskey. I'm Ryan, and today I will be reviewing Weller Special Reserve. So enough chit-chat, let's get right into it. The Weller family was originally from Germany, but came to America in 1740. They finally settled in Kentucky in 1790 and started distilling whiskey. Samuel Weller was the second-generation distiller in the family and would eventually pass on his distilling knowledge to his son William LaRue Weller, who was the man credited with first using wheat as the secondary grain in bourbon. His first company was called W.L. Weller & Brothers, but changed the name to W.L. Weller & Sons as the company grew. He employed a man named Julian Van Winkle Sr., otherwise known as Pappy Van Winkle, as a salesman, and he quickly rose up the company. When Weller died in 1908, Van Winkle bought the company. When Prohibition hit, Weller & Sons merged with A.P.H. Stitzel Distillery in 1935 in order to get a medicinal license. They called it the Stitzel-Weller Distillery. When Prohibition ended, they started making bourbon again, only a little different from the normal way. They replaced the rye with wheat, which was a more available grain, and resulted in a sweeter flavor. They also used the sour mash process and barreled the whiskey at a lower entry proof. Julian Van Winkle died in 1965, which is when the whiskey industry was hitting its rough streak with the new generation. The Van Winkle family sold the company in 1972 to what would eventually become Diageo, who closed it down in 1992. After the sale of his family's distillery, Julian Van Winkle Jr. bought a bottling plant and some of the old whiskey barrels that his father had made. He would bottle them and sell them under the old family name. He then partnered with Buffalo Trace Distillery to restart the production of the old family whiskeys, including Weller. Weller Special Reserve is a wheated bourbon produced by the Buffalo Trace Distillery and is advertised as being the original wheated bourbon. It is part of the Weller collection, which also includes Weller Antique 107, Weller Full Proof, Weller 12-Year, Weller CYPB, Weller Single Barrel, and William LaRue Weller. Weller Special Reserve is 90 proof, or 45% ABV, has no age statement, and it uses Buffalo Trace's wheated mash bill. It is non-chill filtered with no color additives. It has a level 4 barrel char and a barrel entry proof of 114. Its MSRP is $24, but it is usually sold around $60 to $100 because of its rarity and relation to the Van Winkle bourbon line. All right, let's get into it. The old screw cap. So I have a funny story about this. A friend of mine bought a bottle of Weller for the first time in probably a while, or maybe even ever, and was super excited, found out it was a screw cap, and was extremely mad and upset. I just thought that was really funny. All right, so let's take a look at the color. Pretty standard color for a bourbon. Deep, dark, amber, almost mahogany. Decently dark, but nothing too special. Let's get right into the nose. Okay, right up front, it's really sweet. There's molasses. There's almost a hint of like honeysuckle flowers. I'm getting some maraschino cherries. It's a very soft sweetness. It's not like dense and punching you in the face. It's like if you were just walking outside and you got a faint whiff of something sweet in the background. I get a little bit of corn dust in there, and there's the slightest hint of cinnamon, but it's not like a spicy cinnamon. It almost smells like cinnamon sugar. There's a little bit of honey, there's a little bit of vanilla, and a slight bit of caramel. Standard bourbon notes. All right, let's get into the taste. Cheers, guys. Okay, the nose was very sweet, but the taste actually has a little bit of a bite to it. There's cinnamon in front, and there's a decent amount of corn sweetness to this one. It's very thin. There's almost no body to it. It feels like I'm drinking water. There's some honey in there, a little bit of sweet apple. I'm getting some cherry, some maple syrup, and there's almost like this cranberry note, like kind of a tart, bitter kind of taste. There's a good amount of oak to it right up front, but it's more like that sourish kind of oak note that you'll get sometimes. The finish is about medium. There's some cherry, there's a little bit of those spice notes. I'm getting some cinnamon, but it's mostly oak and a little bit of that like tart, bitter cranberries coming through as well. All right, let's see what happens when we add a little bit of water to it. But before we do that, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button down below. Not only does it show support for the channel, but it helps new viewers find the channel and enjoy the videos as well. One, two. Okay, on the nose, the water pretty much killed it. There's a slight hint of oak, but there's really nothing else in there. Like maybe if I really dig, I can get some caramel, maybe a little bit of vanilla, but nothing too crazy. It almost smells like water. Let's see what it did to the taste. Okay, so the water gave it a very, very bitter taste. It tastes like I'm drinking liquid cocoa powder, just like that pure raw cocoa powder, extremely bitter and just kind of lingering. There's a little bit of oak there, but it's really getting overpowered with that super bitter cocoa powder flavor. The finish is just more of the same. Oak, bitter cocoa powder. Nothing different, nothing to really write home about. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, oak, bitter cocoa powder. Not really much else to say. All right, stick around for the grade. All right, so Weller Special Reserve. What do I think? So, on the nose, I think I'm gonna give it a 17 out of 20. There was some decent notes in there. I got some molasses, some maraschino cherries, a little bit of cinnamon, but it was very soft, it was very gentle. There was nothing intrusive about it. I didn't get anything bad. I got all the standard bourbon notes with a little bit extra. The taste, I'm gonna give a 16 out of 20. Again, you got standard bourbon notes, honey, cherry, some maple syrup, some apple notes. The only real difference was that cranberry note. Now, that could be good or that could be bad, depending on what you like or how it hits your tongue. So it's not gonna get any extra points for that, but it's really not gonna lose any either. For the finish, I'm gonna give it 15 out of 20. Nothing crazy, medium-ish, cherry, a little bit of spice, oak, kind of standard. The water, I'm gonna give it 13 out of 20. It really wasn't that great, just oak and bitter cocoa powder. If you like that kind of cocoa powder flavor, it's nice. It's just, there's really nothing there. The nose was dead and the taste and the finish were all the same. For price and availability, this one's gonna get a 4. It gets a 4 because it's supposed to be $25. So I mean, that's what it's supposed to be sold as, but it's definitely not going to be sold like that. You're more likely to find this at $60, and that's cheap for this one. Availability, good luck. No matter where you go, it's either going to be out or marked up like crazy. I mean, you might get lucky and find it pretty cheap, but chances are you're not. For uniqueness, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It's a wheated bourbon, which is kind of rare considering all the rye heavy bourbons that are out there, but it's not uncommon to find a wheater. Maker's Mark, Larceny, Redemption does one, a bunch of people have them, so it's not super rare, but it's definitely not the most common thing you're gonna see. So that brings the overall score of Weller Special Reserve to a 68 out of 100. And if you're a little confused on the new scoring system, go and check out my E.H. Taylor video, which I'll leave a link to at the end. So for Weller Special Reserve, I think I'm gonna go without it. It really isn't that impressive. I mean, look, it's meant to be a cheap, easygoing bourbon, and I get that. I completely understand that. For that, it's pretty good, but you're not going to be able to find this very easily. It's not readily available on the shelves. It's going to be marked up like crazy, and to be honest, there's a lot better whiskeys for $20. So if you've never tried this one, I recommend giving it a shot. If you see it for a decent price, definitely pick it up, but don't pay more than that for this. It's really not worth it. All right, well, that does it for today's episode of With or Without Whiskey. If you enjoyed the episode and you had a good time, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what you think about Weller. Do you like it? Do you think it's overrated? Do you always try and get it, or do you pass on it? Also, have you had any of the other versions, like the Foolproof or CYPB? And what do you think about those? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you like this episode, check out some of the other ones on the end clip. So remember, guys, no matter how busy you are, there's always time for a drink with friends. Stay safe, everyone.